Hey, it's Cheryl from We're in the Rockies, and today I want to talk to you about where to stay when you go to Yellowstone. Our channel is about helping you have a wonderful trip when you travel anywhere in the Rockies. We want to give you some insider tips and just make sure that vacation goes smooth that you've been planning. So, where to stay in Yellowstone? Probably the most important thing whenever you start traveling or start planning a vacation is you want to know where you are going to be. And I think the first thing you need to know is that Yellowstone is a very, very big park with multiple entrances. And so to start off, you're probably going to want to decide, just know which entrance you're going to be coming into the park at, and then have a good idea of the distances between different locations. Yellowstone is mostly, if you're going there for the first time, you're going to want to go on the Grand Loop. And the Grand Loop is big. It can take anywhere from 4 to 7 hours to go around the perimeter of it. And a lot of times, especially if you're going to be staying in a hotel, I would recommend maybe staying in 2 locations so that you're not having to drive clear back to the starting point every day. But maybe you can stay a couple days in one location and then do a couple days in another. The other thing to know is that there are hotels available outside the park, and there's even some lodges inside the park. I've been going to Yellowstone almost every year my entire life. It's been a big thing that I did before I got married and a thing I've done after I got married. But I was not really aware that there were lodges inside the park run by Yellowstone. I just always thought you could do a hotel, run by a private business or go camping, but I didn't know there was like an in-between, and we're going to talk about all those things. So let's start by talking about what your plans are. You're going to want to ask yourself a few questions. The first one is just, what do you plan to do while you're in there? Are you there to, do the sightseeing thing inside the park, or most of the things you're wanting to do right in the park? Or are you interested in doing some other attractions like the wolf and grizzly encounter? Or go to a rodeo? There's a lot of fun things you can do, in the Yellowstone area, but outside of the park. And so think about a little bit about what you're planning on doing. Are you willing to change locations? It is kind of a pain to pack up your stuff and go somewhere else, but it will save you some driving time. So think about that. How far in advance are you making your reservations? If you're heading to Yellowstone in a couple of weeks, you're probably going to be limited to hotels, probably outside of the park. But if you're planning far in advance, the lodges inside the park may be an option for you. So, depending on how much time you have to prepare, gives you some availability. The other thing to think about is the group size you're traveling in. There are a lot of VRBOs, Airbnbs in towns outside of Yellowstone that could offer you a pretty good deal compared to hotels and could accommodate a larger group. So those are all things to think about. Now I want to talk to you about distances between the locations in the park. So we've got the west entrance, the north entrance, the northeast entrance, the east entrance, and the south entrance. Many people go in through the west entrance. That's the most common one. And West Yellowstone is a town outside of there. And from West Yellowstone to the west entrance, it could take 5 to 10 minutes depending on where your hotel is. And then once you go through that west entrance, you're looking at another 20-minute travel time to get to the Grand Loop. If you're staying up north in the Mammoth area, the town is called Gardiner. And that place is like 5 minutes from the entrance in Mammoth, like right when you go through the north entrance, you're right at the top of the Grand Loop. So you're looking at a total 10 minutes from hotel to being on the loop in the north part. On the east and northeast, there's not a lot of hotels really close to the entrance. Just from the east one, you're looking at Cody, Wyoming, which is over an hour away. Now, Cody, Wyoming, I would say is kind of like its own little vacation anyway. But, you're looking at an hour from Cody and then another 20-25 minutes from the east entrance to the loop. And then south, there really isn't much at all. If you keep traveling south, you're going to hit the Tetons and Jackson Hole, which is a super cool place to visit. But if you are going from Jackson all the way up to to Yellowstone, you know, it would take you about an hour 15 from Jackson to the south gate, and then another 35 minutes up to West Thumb where the loop starts. So that's just to give you an idea of what you're looking at travel time. So depending on where you are choosing to stay, you know, so say you enter through the west gate, that doesn't mean you have to stay in West Yellowstone. But, you know, maybe perhaps you'd want to head up to Mammoth and stay there. It doesn't really matter. It's just make sure you know what you're getting yourself into driving time wise. You know, if you look at a map of the park, you'll see that things don't look that far apart. But remember, the speed limit is 45, and you are going to be dealing with tourist traffic jams and buffalo traffic jams. So driving around is beautiful, but if you're driving back and forth the same place, you might tire of it and might want to move locations. Okay, so let's start talking about all the places you can stay. I want to start with staying inside the park. Yellowstone has quite a few lodges. I believe nine lodges, cabin areas that you can stay. I wanted to show you where all of the lodges and cabins were in Yellowstone and just to give you an idea. One thing I wanted to point out is just look around this map at kind of some of the attractions. A lot of the geyser basins are in this lower loop. So if you are a geyser geek and want to see a bunch of geysers, then maybe you'll want to stay here. And the places to stay are the Old Faithful Snow Lodge and Cabins, the Lodge Cabins, the famous Old Faithful Inn. And then you can also stay in Grant Village, the Lake Hotel, the Lake Lodge. Look how those are right on Yellowstone Lake. You get some pretty views there. There's the Canyon Lodge, which is the brand new one. The Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel and Cabins. The Roosevelt Lodge. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, we've got them all right there. And honestly, I can't recommend one over another. They are all special in their own way. You know, some of them are newer. The newest one is in Canyon, but some of them are cool because they're super old. But some things to know about them. Okay, they generally start letting people come in at the beginning of June, and the latest one will be open until November 1st. So you'll want to check on the website and see the availability and the time that you're traveling. The next thing you're going to want to do is is you need to know that they're hotels, and some of them have very quaint amenities, like the quilts look older, they look old-fashioned, and because the buildings are super old and they're cute, and some of them are a little more modern. But the thing you need to know is that not all of them have private bathrooms. So if that's something that's important to you, look at the details. Also, another luxury that's not in most of these, including the Old Faithful Inn, the famous one, is no air conditioning and no TVs. The only one that will have a television in it is the one up at the top of Mammoth. It's funny, you know, when you go to a new town, you see all these old hotels, you'll see like color TV, and you're like, oh great. But that's actually a luxury in Yellowstone if you're staying in the park. They don't put TVs in their hotel rooms. They're pretty old-fashioned, but you're getting the camping experience. They range from about $100 a night to $300 a night, depending on the size of room and the amenities you want and how new it is. Oh, you're gonna want to book early. That's an important thing with lodging inside the park. They actually have 2,300 rooms available, but but they do book up early. In fact, you know, this year, this is 2020, they opened up booking for 2021 on June 1st. So, and I just got online and I looked, there were rooms available for 2021, but that's how soon they'll let you start booking. And so if it's important to you to stay inside the park and you're going to be hoteling it, you know, just plan on booking early. Also, cabins tend to run cheaper than staying in an inn, so another thing for you to know. All right, so that's the inside, and maybe I'll go through a map real quick and kind of show you where they are and tell you a little bit about them. Okay, now let's talk about West Yellowstone. West Yellowstone is the biggest hub. People are traveling there from Utah, Idaho, Montana. They're all kind of feeding through that gate. And that's the biggest touristy town, and I'm gonna say it's not really that big, but it's the biggest one, and there's a lot of tourist attractions. They have a rodeo, a zip line place, the Wolf and Bear Discovery Center. They've got like a big gun range where you can go shoot your guns, the IMAX theater, a playhouse. There's just a lot of things you can do in West Yellowstone. They also have the greatest variety of shops and restaurants and things like that. So that's a benefit to staying in West Yellowstone. As I've researched these hotels, I've stayed in some, and others I thought I'd like to stay there. But I wanted to recommend just a few as you're doing your searches. Now, one caveat I wanted to explain is that I'm going to talk about a family-friendly hotel. When I look at family-friendly, the things that are important to my family is the free breakfast. You know, I've taken my kids on some pretty cool vacations, and when I ask them about like what made the vacation awesome, they love getting their breakfast. So I consider that a pretty important thing, is that free breakfast. Plus, if you're feeding a family of 4 or 5 or 6, you know, not having to provide that meal can save you some money. So that's something I considered. Also, if there was a pool, and in Yellowstone, the pools need to be indoors because it can get pretty darn cold even in July. So an indoor pool. So the first one I noticed was Kelly's Inn. Had amazing reviews, very family friendly. They had suites, they had a pool, just looked like a great place to stay. It's right across the street from the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center, and that's right by the gate of Yellowstone, so you'd have a very short drive in there. The next one I wanted to talk to you about was the Days Inn, and the reason I bring that one up is because they have a water slide with their pool, which is a huge hit with the kids. The next one, if you're wanting kind of a more, I realize that not everyone watching this video has children, so if you wanted more of an upscale experience, there is the 1872, which is when I first saw that, I'm like, oh, was it made in 1872? No, it's a very new hotel, but it's just called 1872. Maybe that's the year Yellowstone came around. I should do my research. But it's a boutique hotel, and for those of you that don't know, a boutique hotel, their rooms are each unique. They have less than 100 rooms. You know, they have specialer food, more services, you know, so a nicer place. That one ranges from around $350 to $450 a night, where the other two range from, I don't know, like $120 to around $300, depending on what you're getting. But yeah, so those are some ideas for places to stay in West Yellowstone. The next one I want to talk to you about is staying up north in Mammoth. Okay, that town is Gardiner, and Gardiner is a smaller town than West Yellowstone, but they're like proud of it. That place has a real cool feel to it. People love it. The big thing that they have there is the Yellowstone hot springs that people like to go swim in, and they also have like a museum there too. But places to stay there is a Yellowstone Village Inn. It is an older building that's been newly remodeled. People are saying great things about it. It runs about $162 to $230 a night. The Yellowstone Abasakura Lodge, sorry, I am probably slaughtering how to say that, also had amazing reviews, and there is a river that runs right by there, and every room has a balcony, so that might be a good place to stay. And if you're looking for more of like a romantic getaway, there is the Gardiner Guest House B&B, and that was built in 1903 and has beautiful grounds. People love the breakfast, and they love the hostess that gives them ideas of what to go do. So those are probably worth checking out. Now, to the east, the closest place is Cody, Wyoming, which I should do a video on what to do in Cody, Wyoming, because there's some cool stuff to do there. That's basically where, you know, Wild Bill Cody, he has a great big place out there with like 5 museums in one. There's a dam named after him, and people love going to Cody. But unfortunately, it's over an hour from the park. So if you're coming in through the east entrance, maybe you're on a road trip heading west, you know, maybe stay in Cody and then head into east, going to the east entrance. But in Cody, there is the Chamberlain, which is a really luxurious hotel that people are writing about getting fresh flowers in their room, silk sheets, lots of amenities, just being real beautiful. Another boutique hotel with, you know, unique rooms. they actually have, I thought this was pretty cool, but they actually have the people in town build the furniture. You know, they buy it from town people, their unique furniture to Cody, and they put it in their room. So that sounded kind of cool. And then there were the Best Westerns. My family, normally when in doubt, we stay in a Best Western when we're traveling to a new place, just because we've had good experiences with that chain. And I'm not getting paid to say this, that's just my experiences. But there are a couple Best Westerns. The Sunset one, I would say, is a family friendly. It has a pool and things like that. And then there's the Premier Ivy Inn, and that one doesn't have like the free breakfast and the pool, but it does offer free babysitting. So if you're not free babysitting, it offers babysitting. I'm sure there's a cost with it, but that's something worth checking out if you're going there. Oh, one other location I did want to mention was the Under Canvas in West Yellowstone. That's, you know, that's the glamping where you have the really nice tents and things like that look like it would be worth worth checking out. So that was one other thing that I thought, that's on my like bucket list. I want to try that someday, and that can run you, you know, between $150 and $300 a night too. That's kind of what you can expect. One other thing about West Yellowstone is there is another town called Island Park that's 30 minutes away from that. So if you're coming from the west, you'd hit Island Park on the way into the west entrance. And they have a lot of VRBOs and Airbnbs. So if West Yellowstone's all booked up and you can't find accommodations, Island Park is another option. You would just have to drive a little bit longer. But hopefully this has been a little helpful in helping you kind of know around where you want to stay and what to expect in each of the areas. It's very common for a hotel room to cost between $150 and $300 a night outside of the park of Yellowstone. I would say Cody was a little bit cheaper than, you know, staying up in Gardiner or West Yellowstone, but pretty similar in the prices, $150 to $300. Inside the park, I've seen cabins for, you know, around $100 a night all the way up to $300. And if you really want to be splurgy, you could stay at the Old Faithful Inn, and their rooms can be really pricey. I saw them up to $1,000 depending on the season and what type of room you get. So just something to help you plan your accommodations. And if you have stayed at a hotel that was wonderful, please get on the comments and share. I didn't really dare talk about some of the budget hotels just because I only have other people's reviews to go off of, and I don't want to head anyone in a wrong direction and give them a bad surprise. But I feel comfortable with the ones I've recommended today. So please put in the comments if you have a great place to stay. Also, stay on and check out our next video, which is all about planning your entire trip to Yellowstone. We have everything included. I think it will be a wealth of information for you if you're getting ready to plan a trip to Yellowstone. So thanks for watching.